Hey, what's going on? This is the OG Kickoff, a Double Down and Next Round media production.
It is.
How about it? Well, let's start right there. We got an announcement for the people. We are no longer independent, and we are dependent in the best possible way with our new partners at Next Round with Double Down Media. I am so fired up. This is the first official episode that we are on board and we are partners. And it feels like it's been a long time coming for like both of us who have been kind of involved in these discussions behind the scenes. But Will, we are not free agents anymore. Is that the right way to say it?
Yes, we have legally consummated our bromance with the guys over there, Double Down Media. So excited. We were only like free agents for like a month. And I mean, that just goes to, honestly, your connections and respect within the industry that pretty much immediately those conversations started. And we've talked about it. We dropped a little preview episode, but I grew up in, Louisiana, and then I went to high school at Hoover High School, go Bucks. And basically gone on the way to school, I was listening to a lot of WJOX where a lot of these guys came from. So it was a real natural fit, man. I'm excited to be with them.
Yeah, it's surreal from that standpoint too. And that was one of the things that when we had these conversations with the Next Round, for those who don't know, like they have their roots like with Jocks and all the things that they were a part of as staples of just in Alabama radio, and things that they've been doing independently over the last few years have just been really impressive, really impressive. And if you've ever seen me wear a Next Round hat or something like that, like I don't really usually just like rep other media companies. And so like I was doing that even when we were at SDS. And so to now be a part of this team and to have this partnership is something that I know is going to allow the show to grow. And for those wondering like, oh, how is this going to change? It's honestly not really going to change the content that we're doing. Like we still have a full, normal, regular, standard early week pod for the people. We're still going to be able to do our Just Met More episodes, which for those who haven't been listening, that is our essentially like what the Rewatchables does to recap classic movies. We recap classic ICC games. You can see in our feed right now, which by the way, if you're already subscribed to us, you don't have to change a thing. Once again, it is just still under the OG Kickoff, just a little bit of a different intro. Maybe we're going to change our look a little bit, but other than that, everything is pretty much the same. And you can see that we have already done a bunch of these games, and we are going to continue to be able to do this through the NFL draft. That is the plan as of right now, to be able to do one episode like that per week, and then one episode wherein we talk about mainly SEC stuff, but also we go national with it. There are a lot of other things that we'd like to be able to get into, and we're going to do that twice a week, and then we'll shift down to once a week during the summer 10-week stretch before media days, and then we'll ramp up again. And then just kind of like we've always been, we'll be doing 2 episodes a week to be able to talk, preview, and recap all things SEC football. So Will, it is good to be here, man. It's good to have a partner. Good to have a partner.
It's great to be here, man. Yeah, and our next It Just Meant More episode is going to be the 2010 championship game, Auburn versus Oregon, Cam Newton legacy game. One of my favorite plays of all time in that game. So yeah, just really excited to relive that part of history.
Yeah, so we have a lot of very fun things planned, and that is what this partnership will allow us to be able to do, is do more things. Because I think that we would like to be able to grow this show as much as we love doing this for the sake of our own personal entertainment of just being able to get on these airwaves and talk ball. We also would like to be able to make money for ourselves and for other people off of it. And so as somebody who has been doing this now this is going to be my 10th season doing an iteration of this show, which is just crazy to say. I would love to be able to continue to grow it and do things that I've wanted to do for a really long time. And maybe that means it opens up future doors for us, but we would love to be able to kind of make this a long-term staple. And this partnership, I believe, is going to allow us to do that, because if you've listened to the Next Round, if you followed any of their social media content, you know that, man, they are all over it, and they have built themselves an empire. And so to be a very small part of that is super, super exciting for us.
Yeah, and just a little, I guess, Tinder bio for each of us. We're the OGs. Connor O'Gara is from Big Ten country. He's fallen in love with Publix, moved to Orlando, Florida. Been covering the SEC now for 10 plus years. You're a veteran in the game. Everybody knows your name. You went to Indiana University, a football power. Many are saying, okay,
Everyone is
I'm
saying. Everyone is
Will
currently
Ogburn.
saying. Yeah.
Many are saying this. Yeah, I'm Will Ogburn. Like I said, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Big LSU fan. Went to Hoover, so it's kind of behind enemy lines for most of my life. So yeah, we've been talking ball since we started together at SDS in 2015. And yeah, that's the end of the bio for all of our longtime listeners. Like, why are you talking about this?
Yeah.
So let's talk some ball, bro.
Yeah. So we have a lot to get to today. We have a great pod coming up. Brooks Austin, speaking of ball talk.
That's a ball knower right there.
That is a ball knower confirmed. Brooks is coming up in a bit. We're going to talk about the Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza draft bait that is somehow unfolded the way that it has. Kind of his, his perspective on all of this as someone who loves Ty Simpson, and then some other QB film study that we get into with the current crop of college football quarterbacks. And then we're going to close with Lad of the Week. But before we do that, I thought, you know what, Will? This would be a really good time to do what I'm calling, and maybe this is the wrong way to phrase it, but I felt like it was the right place to start because it implies a little bit of uniformity. I think these are the OG evergreen college football rules and mantras, way of life, words to live by. Maybe that's a little bit strong, but I feel like these are essentially bylaws that you and I, having done this show together for the last 5 years, have kind of gotten to a place to where we accept it's just a part of our vernacular on the show. And if you are new to us, by the way, thank you. Go hit that subscribe button. We are going to be talking about these things a lot, and we say these things so effortlessly at this stage that it almost like it kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit too easily. And so it's just a way to let you know these are our values. These are the types of things that we care about as consumers of this sport, as people that love college football. And we feel like this would be a good place to start, either if you are new or if you've listened to us. Man, if you've listened to us since the John Chris days, shout out to you.
God
Send us
bless
an
you.
email. If you've listened to us, if you're an OG listener, my guy Robert Fellows used to always tell me this. If you are an OG listener, if you've been listening to us since the John Chris days, email us, theogkickoff@gmail.com. Would love to be able to hear your origins of when you were opened up to this new world of college football podcasts and how long we've been doing this. So does that all kind of make sense? OG evergreen college football rules. That sounds a little bit wordy, a little bit clunky, but you get it. It makes sense, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I will stop doing the new listener stuff after this episode, I promise. But a good part of our chemistry here is that Connor is a big time preparer. He's a guy who put together like a 15-page Google Doc. I've been a little bit of a documentarist over the course of my career. Usually I'm kind of jumping around the doc a little bit. And so, yeah, I'm looking here at a very well researched breakdown of all of our thoughts, and we just go off of that. And so, yeah, I'm ready to get started.
15 pages for recording a college football podcast on an October Sunday morning is normal. Everybody does that. Everybody does that. All right. Like,
only ball knowers, Connor.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's start with this one, Will. Don't compare anyone to Cam Newton. Ever. Don't ever. If you're having a college football conversation, if you are projecting what a guy could be, don't ever compare him to Cameron Newton.
Especially if you're his former coach.
Yes, Will. God, it goes double for Gus Malzahn. The only time that you can give up a comparison to Cam Newton is a GOAT comp. Like all in for that. That makes a lot of sense. But the discussions that I hate that seem to happen at least once, maybe twice a year with somebody, this quarterback reminds me of Cam Newton. The latest guilty party, Kyle Whittingham. I really like Kyle Whittingham. He went on the hard count with our guy, JD Piquel, and said that Bryce Underwood, quote, kind of reminds him of Cam Newton. There is no such thing as kind of Cam Newton. Come on. We're 16 years removed from this. We know there is no such thing as kind of Cam Newton, and yet it continues to come out every single year. And here's the problem with these comps, and the reason that I get so frustrated with them. They are always projection. You know what nobody ever says? Wow, what that guy did really reminded me of Cam Newton. Or if you say that like within the context of like a given play, even that's too small of a sample size, Gary Danielson, but it would just happen. And it shouldn't ever come out. It should just be one of those things. Like we have a certain filter, I think, when discussing people and human beings in general. And this should just be a thing that we filter. And we say, nope, that's not getting through. This thought might have entered my brain. I'm not going to actually say it out in airwaves in front of people. And you know what? These comps are never, ever, ever right. Jeremy Johnson, Joey Gatewood, KJ Jefferson, DJ Lagway. Those are just a few. And a lot of those Gus Malzahn, I realize, is kind of at the forefront of that. So he might think, hey, I can make these comps. But whether it's Gus, whether it's Gary, whether it's Kyle Whittingham, whoever it is, comparing a quarterback in college football to Cam Newton will always be wildly disrespectful. And I don't even want to do it after a Heisman season because, as we know, Cam's surroundings, not exactly great. NFL draft picks on offense that Cam played with were a fourth-round offensive lineman and a seventh-round offensive lineman, one career NFL start by the rest of the Auburn offense that was on that 2010 team. Instead of just being lazy and comparing let's call it what it is, a big black quarterback to Cam Newton, that's ultimately what people do. Instead of doing that thing, just don't. Find literally anybody else, and we don't have to react this way.
I'm glad you went there because it's always an African-American quarterback. It's always wrong.
Will Levis wasn't compared to him, Will.
Yes. And the funniest thing about it is there is one good comp, and it's Josh Allen. That's the best part, is that there's one guy who's kind of like Cam Newton, and he's a white guy. So if you find yourself being like, hey, this new young black quarterback reminds me of Cam Newton. No, he doesn't.
He never has and never will. I promise you that. All right. Number 2. And I realize that this is like kind of in the order of importance. And maybe if it were if it were truly just based on how important these are, you can make a case this is number 1. Nobody knows what targeting is, but everyone hates it. That's it. That's a rule of college football. We're supposed to hate targeting. Even if the rules are going to stay changed, which if you saw this happened a few weeks ago, that we have a rule that is on a trial basis in 2026 where players no longer have the following game suspension for the first time offenders who get a targeting penalty. If you recall, if you got a targeting penalty in the middle of the third quarter, it was, not only are you ejected from the game, but you have to sit the first half of next game. That is not going to be the case. It is still going to be a player ejection, but it is only going to be for the rest of that game if you are a first-time offender. And look, I get we're at least opening our eyes up to, hey, we don't have to basically put these guys up to the death penalty if they get a targeting penalty in a game. But it's still not an exact science that we're never going to figure out. It is completely subjective and still really, really pivotal in a violent game. And we all get why it's part of the rules. I don't think anybody needs an explainer on that. And the problem is that there's just no way that officials have figured out how to differentiate intent. And far too often, a football play is treated like a guy making a non-football play and then punished too heavily for it. And it varies so much from officiating crew to officiating crew that we're all just left guessing during these reviews. What's targeting? What's not? I have no idea. Barrett Slee always talks about spin the wheel of targeting. I'm on board with that. I think I'd have better luck spinning the wheel than actually trying to guess, even with all the football that I watch in a given college football Saturday. But yeah, as long as it's acknowledged, it's always going to be a massive pain, even if the intent of the rule and why it's there makes sense.
Yeah, there's an inherent kind of bureaucracy to this, right? Where it's all about player safety. But when you really think about the commodification of this game and how we're trying to get these kids to play 17, 18 game seasons, nobody cares about player safety. And back in the day, hate to be a boomer already, right? But there was none of this. And so to think, well, now we care about player safety is just a little absurd to me and us.
Yeah, there's probably a few things you could poke holes with when it comes to that. You're right. The whole 17 game season. Okay, so why are we doing that? But then this is the thing that we got to put our foot down against. Yeah. Targeting, just accept the fact that you're never going to like it. You're never going to agree with it. It'll work for you. It'll work against you. It'll just make you absolutely mad. So don't bother trying to make sense of it. The third rule I have is very specific to me. It's very, very specific, but these are the OG evergreen rules to college football. So I feel like it's okay to include this. The word buyout should not be an aloha situation, a hello, goodbye. We need to get rid of this double meaning for the word buyout. There is a difference between a coach getting fired and receiving a buyout as opposed to another school taking a coach from another school and paying them money to do so. Those cannot be the same thing because that action is completely different. Alabama paid Washington $12 million to poach Kalen DeBoer. That is totally different than saying, oh, Kalen DeBoer has a $60 million buyout at Alabama if he's fired. We need to abolish using the word buyout when we actually mean poach. And I understand it's like, oh, well, you're buying him out of that contract. No. Miss me with that. Leave that in the 20th century, because in the 21st century, since Tommy Tuberville did his thing and Jetgate happened, we have come up with a new language to describe this thing that was once not a thing. And if you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. They weren't really a thing before Jetgate happened, but when it leaked that Auburn was willing to pay a $4 million buyout to fire Tuberville and hire Bobby Petrino, agents started getting their coaches these bigger buyouts. And then we had the increase in coach contracts, and that kind of followed with it. And then boom, just like that, these buyouts took off. 2016, these buyouts still very much becoming a thing, but not a fully fledged thing in the way that they are today. The USA Today reported that there were 7 coaches who would have been owed a buyout of at least $20 million if they had been fired that season. Will, if every coach had been fired last year, do you know how many of them would have taken home a $20 million buyout? You know what that number is?
It's super high, right? How many?
34, at least 34, probably more like 40, because some of the private schools, you're like, come on. Yeah. Sorry, Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman, his buyout is definitely north of $20 million.
So essentially every serious football school.
Basically, yeah, that is more than half of the power conference schools. If you are a power conference school that takes it seriously, yes, you have a coach that if you were fired, he would get a $20 million buyout, which is totally different than saying, hey, if you take our coach from us, you will get this amount of money. That is a poach fee. We need to call it a poach fee. And in this day and age where an SEO is the type of thing that matters, and we do things on this show like the 10 worst contracts in college football, I just feel the need to remind people that there is a totally different meaning for what buyout actually is in the 21st century, at least in the way that we talk about it seemingly year round, especially in the SEC.
Connor, are you in possession of the holy document on this day?
Wait, you have an Iowa notepad right now?
I've always had an Iowa notepad.
We have not exchanged.
I've been saving this for this moment, actually.
Okay, we have literally a document right here. We got some Claire scribbles on this Iowa piece of Iowa loose leaf.
She's joining the family trade. Look at this.
Oh gosh, I have one of these where she has a scribble on every single page of an Iowa notepad that is at least 10 years old. CJ Beathard, Desmond King, Akram Wadley on the cover.
I got the Desmond King edition. So back in the day, the University of Iowa set out all these promotional little notepads, and Connor uses them to track buyouts. And so if you ever hear about us breaking out the Iowa notepad, Connor has like a tracker that he has done by hand. And okay, who do we look at? And so that is how we track buyouts of the show via Iowa notepad.
The Jimbo Fisher one was one that was discussed on the Next Round airwaves frequently, very, very frequently. I have that piece of paper somewhere in my desk. I should have it. I should have it on the fridge. Claire's art is probably always going to be the thing that's going to take, top billing in terms.
You need to put that one on the fridge. That's the first Iowa notepad entry. That's a moment in her life.
I know. It's kind of like when you open a restaurant and you put the first dollar in a frame on the store. That's the one that I really should be tracking. I'm going to have a few of these. Matt Rule, looking at you. Looking at you, man. There are going to be a few of these that are going to go up. But yeah, that's just something that's always bothered me. And it's bothered me more and more as people continue to misuse that word and treat it with such different context than the way that we should be talking about it.
All in favor of poach fee.
All right. This is kind of related to that, but kind of not. Optics matter. I kept this very broad on purpose. Optics matter in a sport that essentially gives universities 7 or 8 opportunities to host these massive events called college football games, wherein they fund basically all of their athletic budget. We were just having a good conversation with our guy Brooks Austin about that off air, about like some of the different dynamics that are at play with some of these schools that you go to, and you're like, oh my God, you hear about how dependent this school is on being able to fund that budget and how much this matters. And even at a Division II school, it's so unbelievably important. And when those optics are not favorable on one of those or 2 of those or 3 of those all important 7 or 8 days you get on the calendar, decision makers react accordingly. They always do. Never underestimate important people watching tens of thousands of people in their home stadium clear out well before the final whistle. looking at you, LSU, looking at you, Penn State, looking at you, UCLA, looking at you, Oklahoma State. Say I didn't stop at LSU. I didn't stop at LSU. That would have been mean. I would never do such a thing to you. But
happier times are ahead, Connor. That's fine. I never had to root for Brian Kelly a day in my life after that A&M game.
And if the optics had been better that night, I am convinced Brian Kelly is at least getting a year 5. I am. And the optics were so bad that you and I talked afterwards. We're like, this is going to happen. Like that was so bad. And that's just not necessarily the image that you can sell to the rest of your university, especially knowing how much those decision makers, the movers and shakers are going to be impacted by that, because embarrassment is a powerful thing in big revenue college sports. And it's always the home games, like watch all these 8-figure buyouts that form. It's almost always after these embarrassing home losses. And at one point last year, like it was the first, I want to say it was like 8 of the first 9 power conference firings happened after a home loss, which is just always the thing that kind of puts everything into perspective. And it's why you kind of have to leave the door open for a guy like Josh Heupel, who, look, I'll continue to say, if I'm betting, Josh Heupel is still going to be Tennessee's head coach next year. I am also the guy saying if they go 6-6 and all of a sudden they have 15,000 less than capacity and they're dealing with half empty stadiums for a team that's irrelevant the entire month of November, that's the type of thing that's going to get people moving in a hurry. It just does. And when you have these elite game day atmospheres to fund athletic departments, sometimes cutting that big check, that big buyout check, not a poach fee, but a buyout check, sometimes also then a poach fee as well. That spend money to make money mantra is kind of what these universities are giving into when the optics are bad.
In the modern era of sports, it's easy to imagine these things as products, right? As like a television show. But in reality, it is, especially in college football, local to these small towns, right? And just as in the NBA, you could say, why is this team doing this? They're just going to sneak into the playoffs. So you go, oh, the owners get extra home games for playoffs that they could make more money off of. The inverse of that in college football would be, hey, maybe we as logical humans would think, okay, that's a game this team should have lost. They're worse than this other team. It's a completely different experience in the donors suite. It's a completely different experience in the head coaches' rooms. And so it's good to remember that these are physical, real places that people have to go to work and see their coworkers and answer to their bosses versus just, oh, yeah, there was like a schedule loss. The guys were tired. The other team was coming off a bye. It's like, no, actually, if you look at the entire, 2020 is a great season for this. So much chaos happened in 2020 where coaches managed things incorrectly. And you look back at like a Dan Mullen, like how did he get fired? Oh, he just completely destroyed the optics of this. That was pretty much it.
And it's the context that gets lost. And sometimes if you're just looking back on why was this coach fired? He had one bad season. You're probably not factoring in the optics. Paul Chryst, Wisconsin. Yeah, it was a pretty unexpected move at the time, but you saw the optics of that place and you're like, this is terrible. It's why last year when Luke Fickell had horrible optics, I think the average college football fan thought he's gone. And it was kind of considered a surprise when they said, we're actually going to invest more into Luke Fickell and we're going to give him another opportunity to be able to right the ship. But those optics have set the stage for that. And him at least getting a vote of confidence was directly related to having just horrible optics at Camp Randall. And so never underestimate what that means. And just because you're selling out a stadium and the optics are okay, that's not always even the best indicator itself. So just keep that in mind. Okay. The strength of schedule should never, ever impact a preseason ranking. Now is the part where you tell me, Connor, preseason rankings don't matter. I get it. They don't determine everything. Okay. You can overcome them. Sometimes you can get benefit of the doubt, maybe a little bit too long as a result of them. I get that. I'm not saying that they are a perfect thing. I do think that preseason rankings matter in a sport with an 8-month offseason. They do not have the final say. You can choose to ignore them if you want to. I get all that. But if you do want to talk about preseason rankings, wherein 2/3 of our time is essentially off-season content and build up and the type of thing that sells tickets and that matters, do yourself a favor and just pretend that the upcoming schedule for a team that you were talking about is an entirely different thing. Do not relate that to what you think a team should be ranked going into a season. Preseason rankings and predicting a finish are two different things. Preseason rankings should be based on what a team did the previous year and the personnel moves that they have made in the offseason, transfer portal, recruiting, coaching changes. You get it. You understand what a personnel move is. That is different to be able to dissect that in the transfer portal era. I get that. That's why we talk about percentage of returning production with Bill Connolly so much. That's why I like to, I don't want to say default to that, but I do like to use that as a reference because I do think it provides a good data point for expectations. But for the life of me, please do not ever tell me that a team is preseason top 5 because their schedule is extremely favorable. And on the flip side, don't tell me that a team deserves to be unranked because their schedule is so daunting. It would be really, really dumb. If you want to predict the playoff field in June, fine, do that. If you want to predict who will hit overs and unders with regular season win totals, fine, do that. But never tell me that Ole Miss having a harder schedule than Alabama, that's just an example, is impacting a preseason ranking.
Absolutely. And I think that's related to when you play a team matters, right? And I'm going to get a double on Dan Mullen really quick one more time. Remember they had that big run with Mississippi State where they beat like several ranked teams in a row. And you go, oh my gosh, Dan Mullen has figured it out. You look back at that season, you go, none of these teams finished ranked, right? But it was all the perception at the time. So there is your kind of preseason ranking, what we imagine you to be. And then you look back and go, was this team any good? And yeah, that mattered at the time, but did you build on it?
It's difficult to understand that in the moment. I think preseason rankings, we probably overcomplicate them. We do. And I like to be able to do them at usually like 3 different points because previous era of college football kind of mattered to do it more often because then you get to factor in injuries, quarterback battles, if coaching changes have happened, makes sense when there's 2 transfer portal windows like that made more sense to do it. But doing so right after the national championship, which we do every single year, doing so after the spring, and then doing so again in August, Fulmer Cup standings come out. If you know, you know. You factor in, oh, hey, what is this team? Does this guy get suspended for the first 4 games of the year? That should probably matter. But those are the types of things that I realize we just scoff at. But if you're actually going to do this right and do so in a way that provides a real data point, or at least a data point for discussion that kind of sets expectations for what a team is when it steps on the field week 1, I do think that being able to just ignore strength of schedule for the upcoming season is the right way to do it.
Agreed.
All right, well, this is the last one I have, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. Number 7 is college football Saturdays are sacred. And this sport will never be perfect, but we love college football Saturdays. Simple as that. Okay. And hand up. I don't think college football is perfect. I do not. Hand up. I also don't think it was perfect during the BCS era when you had computers deciding 2 teams to play for all the marbles. And you could say, maybe it's a little bit easier than what the selection committee's done. I get that. But I think that you could poke holes in a lot of things from the BCS era and any previous iteration of college football. I don't think it was perfect when you could only watch your team a handful of times throughout the season.
Shout out Jefferson Pilot, man.
Right? Or if you are having to go to a local bar to watch on pay-per-view to watch your team, that's probably not the best fan experience. Like, I don't think the NFL is perfect. I don't think the NFL is perfect because I, as an average consumer who lives out of market from my Chicago Bears, has to pay an extra package in order to be able to watch them in a given Saturday or a given Sunday during the regular season. I don't think that's perfect at all. I think that's kind of messed up. And I think that it's really dumb that it's only, if they're in prime time. And I think one day we'll look back on that and go, that was stupid. Why did we all endure that for such a long time? But like with college football, I think that a lot of people love this sport because of nostalgia. And college football is fueled so much by nostalgia. But if you tell me that the sport was perfect at a specific time, I can just tell you why it wasn't. Because more exposure to the sport was always going to mean that athletes were going to get a cut of that money for that exposure. And if you didn't want that, I'm sorry. If you can't watch the sport anymore because of NIL, that's a you problem. It's not the same has been said about everything forever. Okay. And it's not to say that we blindly accept the sport for all of its flaws. Okay. Lord knows, like, I don't watch the NBA and MLB in the way that I used to. Okay. Like, as a kid, that was what I grew up on. That was everything for me, even probably more so than football for several years of my adolescence. But I also didn't have the option to watch as much college football as a kid. And so now we're exposed to more of this stuff. And fall Saturdays are still sacred. And for me, that won't change 20 or 30 years from now, even if this game endures a few more very significant facelifts that we talk about and dissect ad nauseum in the offseason.
Well, Connor, that's where you're wrong. See, college football was perfect when my specific team was good. That's what people will tell you. That's the funniest thing is when you start talking to
2026,
fans.
it's perfect, Will.
Yeah, you're like,
Perfect.
this is the best era in college football history, buddy. Expand the playoff. Let's leave it right here. No, but like really, when you talk to fans about this stuff, it's like college football's broken. When was the last time it was good? Talk to a Tennessee fan. 1998. That's crazy. Why do you pick that year when the last
Can't
time
imagine.
college football was good? So yeah, to your point, it's the perfectly perfect sport. And the more we try to perfect it, the more we're going to break it, right? The Sickos Committee, Pac-12 After Dark is why we got into this sport. So pushing against that and trying to make it this product that's pristine and everything, I think we need to embrace that not every team is playing for a championship, even a conference championship. Every team has different goals. That's what's beautiful about college sports versus pro sports is that logically in the NFL, the 32 teams should be competing for a Super Bowl or they should be firing people. In college football, like Wisconsin, for instance, has never won a national championship. Do you think those guys have wasted their time? No, I think they've had a great time.
And I think too, we have it pretty good. If you compare our experience to other fans, I do think we have it pretty favorable. Where, yes, you are probably paying some sort of, I just talked about how like paying for an extra package to be able to get my home team in an NFL game. You could get almost any game on ESPN right now with college football. And with all due respect to Ivy League schools, let's just say you weren't watching your team on a regular basis during the 90s. Okay. You want to watch Dartmouth football? You're going to have to go to a Dartmouth football game to be able to watch it. Or you're going to read about it in the paper, or maybe you'll listen to it on the radio in some way, shape, or form. But we have actually developed a lot over the course of the last 12 years, not all for the better. Still some issues that I think everybody would admit, yeah, that probably should be cleaned up. We probably shouldn't have a sport wherein a coach can get a Jimbo Fisher Iowa notepad level buyout. I think we could all agree on that. There's probably some flaws in the system, but do we still have something to look forward to on each and every fall Saturday? For the vast majority of us, yes.
And we talked about this last season. I mean, even though my team was not very good, this is probably the most fun I've had in a fall. There was so much parity. It felt like every SEC weekend was 2-3 games. Teams were on upset alert. Part of that's the new clock rules, which again, we shook our hands like old guys when they were implemented, but it made games closer. It made things more fun to watch. It's not the same 2 and 3 teams beating up on stuff. So there's some nuance to it. All new is not bad. All old is not good.
And yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it. So those are my 7. Will, where do you want to add to this with our evergreen OG evergreen college football rules?
Perfect. So I'll pick up here and I'll be a little bit fair. I'm in a good mood. I started with a federal crime here. We're going to put this to a local level. Fall weddings should be a statewide crime. I think that the state of Alabama should go ahead and lock you up if you try to put a fall wedding on there. You go down to the wedding registrar and it says, who's Alabama playing this weekend? Is it Citadel? Okay, you're probably fine. But if you put that on Iron Bowl weekend, you need to, I mean, you're in the slammer, especially with your friend group. So any pushback there?
Well, the only pushback, I'm on board. Lock it in. The only pushback is if it's on a Sunday, because fall weddings on Sunday, as I may or may not have, but definitely did have once upon a time, is highly, highly cost effective. And you are not ruining your college football Saturday. Now, sometimes you might have to work around a rehearsal dinner. You might have to go to a local bar. Oh, darn. But fall weddings on a Sunday, I think we can still be on board with. I think we can still allow that. That's okay. If you are factoring in bye week, I think you're good. I don't think that's worthy of being jailed. And look, I am a believer that there are certain things in life that you just can't miss. I think what fall weddings, if you are willing to have one yourself, knowing like, hey, my audience, a lot of college football fans, this is like kind of our basis and how we do things. And it's a big, it's how a lot of us were connected, and it's a big shared experience for a lot of us. I think what it pushes off the table is your ability to be like, overwhelmingly mad at a bunch of people if you get some that want to push back. That's
Yes.
like that I think is different than just, hey, we're like, because I've been in that spot before where like you get invited to a very important fall wedding. You're like, look, I do this for a living. If I told you no, I think you'd have to kind of be okay with
That's
it.
a work thing at that point. Yeah.
But then I also have like one of my three best buddies got married last year. It was the first fall Saturday I've missed in 7 years. He went to Illinois State. Yes, they did just compete in an FCS national championship. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that college football is a big part of his deal. And in the suburbs of Chicago, it wasn't as big. So I give him some grace. And obviously I wasn't going to miss that wedding. But yeah, there are a lot where you're like, come on, you knew what you signed up for.
Yeah, I love the nuance there. You're so right because Sundays exist now. Again, Chicago more of an NFL town, so that makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna roll that right into my next rule. I'm gonna call this the FERDA rule. Have you ever heard the phrase FERDA?
FERDA. Is
FERDA
that an acronym?
boys.
Okay, please explain FERDA.
Now this is a hockey term, so I think this would come your way before mine. It's from the show Shorzy or Letterkenny. You do something for the boys, right? This is called the FERDA rule. We've talked about this a little bit. If your team doesn't have anything at stake, root for your buddy's team. Right.
Mm,
Okay. But there's a second point to this that I've kind of sharpened here. Okay. If you're on a boys' trip to watch a game, you are forbidden from putting prop bets on the opposing team.
100%.
I was
Easy.
at a Braves game the other day, and this random, like 18-year-old kid, maybe not even 18, so he's probably double illegal with how he was betting, started just clapping randomly in the middle of this game. And everybody like looked at him. He's like, yeah, I had a Royals player to get a hit. Sorry, guys, I'm done clapping now. That is the most like turbo move of all time. Where you're sitting there with your buddies or with home fans and you're like, oh, I'm rooting for this one really specific thing. Go me. I cannot stand that. If you're on a boys trip, let's say me and my boys go watch Miami football or something. They're playing GT. I got nothing at stake. I'm not going to go hit the Georgia Tech passing yards over just to be sitting there on pins and needles rooting against my boy. That is a loser move.
Okay, so I've told people who listen to the show for a little bit. Will and his buddies do the best job of this of any friend group I've ever seen. Dudes supporting dudes in their teams. And it helps that they don't have the rival. Like, it's not like Will is in a friend group where it's like, hey, this person went to you're an LSU fan and oh, this person's like a diehard Alabama fan. And then, oh, this person's a diehard Georgia fan. And oh, this like you guys are kind of at a different place with your fandom that allows you to be that. But to be your buddy's biggest cheerleader, that's probably a weird way to phrase it, but there is something to be said for this. And I've thought about it a lot during this NCAA tournament in which, let's just say your boys had better experiences. But for example, like one of my best friends, Katrina, 2 years ago, was so happy because Purdue got to a national runner-up. There is a right way to go about that from my standpoint as an Indiana grad and a wrong way to go about it. You send the happy for you. You don't say you're rooting for their team. Now, what's different is like, all right, so two of my three best friends went to Iowa. Iowa goes on this, for them, unprecedented run, at least in recent memory, during the NCAA tournament. They get to an Elite Eight. Am I rooting for my Iowa buddies throughout that entire experience? Absolutely. Am I going to be bitter that I am not getting their experience, even though I went to a basketball school and in the last 20 years, my basketball focused school has not been to an Elite Eight? I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to bring that up to them. I'm going to be supportive in that moment. If I were watching a game in person with them, I'd want to be all in with everything that they're doing, and especially not pick prop bets that go against what they have.
And again, there's a caveat to this. Not if they're rival fans. Like if it's Alabama, Auburn,
right.
if it's LSU, Florida, something like that, you rarely do that. But I will tell you, and I'm an elite slanderer, hater. There is no better trash talk than like, my buddies that are Alabama fans text me during like the LSU Arkansas game. Great win for you guys. Really happy for you.
Yeah,
like that's
really
it's 40 chest level thinking when your team's a little bit worse than theirs. Oh my gosh, good job. So proud of you guys. So just think about it in that context, even if you want to be a hater. Okay.
Real quick. My mom has been a huge IU fan of like the IU football run. And she like wears her IU hat to pickleball every day. She is a University of Illinois graduate. I have different feelings about Illinois than what she has towards Indiana. She watched part of her bank account go to Indiana. Illinois is a school that rejected me. watching Illinois in the NCAA tournament, I still have a little bit in the back of my mind of like, man, I'm happy for my mom, but and especially like I've got a bunch of cousins that went to Illinois. Thought I was going to go there at one point, and then they rejected me. Not bitter. And I have this in the back of my mind of like, all right, I need to take the high road. I'm not going to send the snarky thing, especially when my team isn't in the NCAA tournament. But the high road move in that spot is happy for you. You do not have to root for that team. That
Exactly.
is insane behavior to sit
Mhm.
there and root for that team and just put totally like all of your feelings aside. But happy for you, that goes a long way. And you know what? That's all you can expect in that spot.
I think we've totally encompassed this. It's like, again, if you're a rival fan base, it's like nobody is like less fun than the guy who just like, well, I hate your team no matter what they do. It's like, all
Yes.
right, man. If you're friends, if it's some random guy on the internet, talk trash.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is one we've kind of hinted at different points. Never get invested in a player until they are suited up and productive for your team.
Great call, Will. God, I love this. This is so important right now. So important right now because people overreact to the recruiting rankings and stuff like that. Until you actually see them out there, I'm gonna have a hard time getting on board in this day and age, especially with transfer portal rules. I realize we're talking evergreen rules, but I think it's an evergreen rule that will apply even if we get future contracts that are locking these guys in. Like, wait to see them actually out there doing stuff.
Like if the big recruit starts playing, has a promising freshman year, all in. Hype train
Yes.
sophomore, even if he gets hurt sophomore, little Harold Perkins, you could be excited every year because you've seen him do it in your jersey. But if this is all just a made up image of this man in your head, you're kind of just talking to yourself. There's not a real person there, and you're gonna get your heart broken over a man who never existed. And then what are you?
Look, I'm not saying Vandy fans that you should have zero excitement about Jared Curtis. You should be excited that a player of that caliber on the recruiting trail committed to your program and is signing up to play football at Vandy. Okay. Those are good things. You should be pumped for that. Temper the excitement. Wait till you see what it looks like. Make sure he stays more than a year. I'm just saying, okay. We can't assume anything. And then let your excitement build from there. But yes, we need to temper our excitement now more so than ever.
I mean, you remember me. I was like, LSU has DeCorian Moore, Bryce Underwood, Harlem Berry, Brian Kelly's cooking. One of
DJ
those people
Pickett.
is that. Wait, what?
DJ Pickett.
Oh, okay, well, he's actually at LSU. You know what? I am excited about DJ. DJ Pickett being 6'5" was pretty wild. And when I saw him walking around campus, I was like, I'm intrigued. This is a guy who will be it's a Jaden Daniels funny highlight tape either way. It's going to be comically good or bad. But yeah, I just remember being so excited. Now looking back, it's like I feel like a fool because I was excited for a Michigan player, an Oregon player, and a coach who I've hated my whole life.
I like that though. This is a good inclusion, and it's something that we talk about a lot, and it's why, like, if we're being 100% honest, we're not going to sit here and break down the early signing period in the way that we would have 6-7 years ago. We're just not going to do that. Will we talk to you about college football year round and talk to you about some dudes always? And there are some pods where it feels like we had one 2 weeks ago where it was kind of just us talking about some dudes and it was fun to do. We will do that all the time, but we talk about dudes that play.
Sorry. Yes, and again, look at the recent Heisman's, ton of transfers. So number 4, Saturday is a marathon, not a sprint. If you are not feeling good at the noon window, it's fine. You have plenty of time. I talked to you about this last year, like when I was running like the SDS social. It's like during that noon window, I would just be like firing off misses from the Twitter account. Didn't have any viral moments. I was like sitting there, I suck at my job. Then you get into that 3:30 window and you're cooking. You look back, some of your stuff starts to catch on. Same deal. If your team loses at noon, you got the rest of the day, brother. You could go outside if you want. You touch a little bit of grass, or you could sit there and root against your rivals and be like, hey, everyone's forgotten about us. You can't take that with you the whole day. Same thing if you're tailgating. If you get there, you get started, kegs and eggs, 6, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Okay, you can't be 4 beers deep by 8 a.m. It's not a good idea. I've been there. I remember being in Baton Rouge or at Memory Mall at UCF, and one time I was like, it's 101 degrees. It's noon. I have had 10 beers. I'm going to die on this field.
God, I just hate the image of Baton Rouge at noon. I just hate it. That's probably a rule. Just no noon games for forever in Baton Rouge. Do you
I
think
had an
that's why
atmosphere for that game? Like, things were condensating around me. I picked up a moon that was orbiting me. It was so hot and humid.
I'm convinced Lane took that job just so that he would have to worry less about noon games. And I realize it gives you a competitive advantage to play more games at night. Lane was frustrated that he didn't get those at Ole Miss. He's going to get a lot more of them at LSU. But part of me is just like, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of get where he's coming from. And this goes off of something that we talked about when we did the non-negotiables for college football. I think, did we do this? It was either last year or 2 years ago. It was when one of those summer seasons of the Bear came out. And I was like, oh, non-negotiables. That's something we should do for college football. No bad Saturdays. No bad fall Saturdays, rather. This plays off of that. If your team loses in that new window, do whatever you got to do for that 2 hours. You got to go for that long walk. You got to do something else. Get your mind away from it. If not watching college football the rest of the day is how you need to make sure that your Saturday doesn't get worse, then do that thing. But find your pick-me-ups, because we're all going to get knocked down and we all need to find what that thing is on a fall Saturday. And if you look back and all your fall Saturdays are terrible, you can't just blame that on your team. You can't just blame that. You got to be able to find those things to get you through, because again, fall Saturdays are sacred.
There's never been more opportunities for a good team to recap from a loss, right? And your season should not be ended at noon almost ever. That means you're not that good of a team. If your whole season got ended at noon in the modern era, that means that puts you over in not a big game, puts you over to 2 or 3 losses.
Hate watch your rival. Do what you got to do. Get on some message boards, whatever you need to do to get over that pit in your stomach. Just find that remedy, because we all need to have them. Losses are inevitable.
That pit in your stomach. Shout out Dabo. Anyway, so number 5, process all news through the lens of a hater first. Okay. Consider who is putting this information out there. When you see this big, press release, when you see this big thing, is someone agenda pushing, right? This is not be a pessimist, be an optimist. But when you see some new earth-shattering news, when you see Marcel Reed looking great in camp, looking great, fixed the whole throwing motion, it's going to be a Heisman guy this year. Don't sit there and go, well, he didn't put it out, it must be true. If you see, hey, this guy is totally healthy, he's looking awesome. Brad Kelly says Nuss is 100%. You got to be a hater. You got to say, why is this being put out? Who stands to benefit from this news? Is this, again, it's all agents now. It's becoming just like the NBA. So be aware of when you're being tricked.
The agenda is key. It's really key. It's kind of a difficult thing to sift through. But you're right. There's just always a little bit something to be skeptical of. There always is. And that's, of course, true with the NFL draft. And I'm like, man, why have I seen this image of Ruben Bain and his bend 10,000 times? Why have I seen that? How is his camp getting it out there that much? I love Ruben Bain. I don't need to be talked into Ruben Bain. But if you don't think that his camp is pushing that insane picture of his bend, like, you've lost the plot. There are reasons why certain things like this get out. Who is pushing this? We talk about it a lot with coach extensions. I remember we talked about it when Pete Thamel was tweeting about the Brent Venables significant extension. And we're looking at this extension going, am I missing the significant part? Like, where's the part that I'm supposed to like hold on to? But instead you're reminded, oh yeah, this is a week before Oklahoma is set to join the SEC. And they do not want people saying, oh, you know what? Their coach is kind of in hot water. No, like, dude literally got extended a week before they were set to join the SEC. Always be mindful of that. And yes, looking through a hater lens sounds a little harsh, but
Skeptic.
You're kind of a skeptic. Yeah. Like eyebrow raised, I think is fair.
Got to keep the eyebrows raised. Now, this next one might be a little bit controversial. Tell me I don't think we've ever talked about this, but it's something I do believe. Titles won before you were born count for less.
Man, you're so right. You're so right. I think this is a tough thing for college football fans everywhere. I do. And it's not just, if we want to poke jokes at Auburn and Alabama claiming national championships, or Michigan and all their championships when they're facing hardware schools, we could do that. But you're kind of right in that we should just keep it to, hey, were you alive to see this? Because if not, I don't want to hear about it.
Literally.
I really don't. Like, once upon a time, I thought if something happened pre-integration in college football, I don't think you should be allowed to flex about it because you played in a different sport. But I think I think the way that you frame that is right. And that if something has happened before you were born and you were literally not there to enjoy it, I don't think that you earn the right to be able to brag about it at all.
That is a call it separate but equal take there, Cotter. I will take that one. But it's true. It's very true. We've talked about that. This is but I will say, like, okay, if you're, a Tennessee fan, I'll go with them again, right? And you're 20 years old. If you're sitting there, going, man, that 98 team, I'll tell you what, like, brother, you don't know. You were not there. You did not see Jefferson Pilot. You got to talk about what's in your purview. And the thing about this rule is that it does account for the Nebraska boosters that were there for this great run and have these expectations. They saw that with their own eyes. It's totally fair for those boosters to be a little bit disconnected from reality because most of their life happened in a reality where Nebraska was this football power. And to get back there, they have to have that mentality. But if you're the fan of a school who hasn't won for a very long time, that's where the Auburn one doesn't make a ton of sense to me, because we're kind of in the golden age of Auburn football. We've seen them play for 2 national titles. Also, the team with Tuberville was contending for one. I mean, think about it, man. It's in terms of a 20-year stretch, very, very good. So there's no reason to add titles from back over yonder when you have real lived memories with Cam Newton, with all these, with Jeremy Johnson. Just kidding.
What if I told you, Will, that maybe when that comes, we talk about, always look at everything with an eyebrow raise. What if I told you that they came in the midst of Auburn's worst 5-year stretch of football since the Dwight D. Eisenhower administration? What if I told you that?
I'd say that's Auburn football. You take the good with the bad, man.
You're right, though. It's not statute of limitations, but it's something like that where, come on, man, we can't be talking. Like, we can't be talking about things that happened in the 80s if you weren't there to experience it. Like, I remember doing a piece for SDS back in 2018. Yes, this was 2018. And it was Herschel Walker, the greatest running back I never saw. And it was entirely based on these secondhand accounts of like people that were actually there and could experience what it was like to watch Herschel in person and be able to actually have to tackle that guy in practice and all these different things that, like, if I were talking to people of my generation about Herschel, it would just be the dumbest thing ever. And if I actually had an informed opinion about him, about like his game and watching him side by side, it probably wouldn't make as much sense either, other than I could say he played with literally 15 men in the box at different points. And I realize you can't have that many men on the field, but it certainly felt like it. And so you're right. Treat it to your generation and try not to dip too much into things you didn't see, because that's where it really gets messy.
And as we're finding with Adjustment More, it's so hard to just throw in like a week 4 Herschel Walker game now. Like, if you weren't physically there watching those games, you're watching highlights and it's just not the same.
Yeah, very different.
So this is a very simple one. Bears repeating. This one has been said by a ton of people, but Bears to be repeated. Never tweet at recruits. Just never do it. If you find yourself arguing in a child's mentions, just go outside. If you find yourself anything but support your choice, young man, you're doing great. Like, you could be supportive. That's totally fine. We all, these guys do need some support. They do need fans. Like, that's great. Not saying don't be supportive. But if you're sitting there and you're like Mr. whatever burner going like, you just destroyed your life, son. You just destroyed your career. No one looks like more of a basement dweller than that person.
It always needs to be remembered. Do people still do this? Do people still do this?
It's probably worse now with the transfer portal. And I mean, like, I think the portal can be a little bit dicey because some of these guys are like 22, 23, and they're taking like NFL deals. That's a little bit different. But if you're truly just like tweeting about a recruit or tweeting about a top 5, or sorry, if you're tweeting about a commitment or a top 5, and you have dudes like the burnerverse is surely stronger than ever, and there's more of a coordinated attack, I'd say now. Yeah, it's still a thing.
You could break multiple evergreen rules of the OG kickoff by tweeting about history from a different generation at a recruit. That is a double violation, straight to jail.
Absolutely.
These are good. These are good. These are bylaws that I think we all need to subscribe to, or at least, well, I don't want to tell other college football fans how to live their lives. It is how we here on the OG Kickoff will choose to live our lives. Was there anything else that we forgot here? Because like I was thinking adapt or die. That's very much a mantra of this show, and fitting that we're doing something like that as we announce a new partnership. We are adapt or die guys, but anything else that came up that you thought we should probably hammer home here?
I would say this is true 80% of the time, but don't hire your buddies in college football. Sometimes you get a Mike Bobo in here who actually does have a second career resurgence. But if you start to see your head coach like going for a guy that he was like besties with 20 years ago, usually it's a red flag.
At the risk of getting a 1-star review for saying this, I will not say it. But if I were to say it, I would say don't be a Hufflepuff. Be a Slytherin when it comes to hiring head football coaches. That is, I promise, the last Harry Potter reference that we will make for the remainder of this show. That will not necessarily be a staple until it happens again. Apologies. Okay. All right. Let's get to our guy, Brooks Austin. Brooks is great. Brooks, of course, has a very unique perspective as the film guy, watches all of these guys as a true college football sicko. And I say this in the most complimentary way possible, but we get into a lot of different quarterback stuff with Brooks. Viewers of The Next Round, he has been on your airwaves plenty of times. You have heard him before, so you will hear him again right now. Here is Brooks Austin. Now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is the film guy, Brooks Austin. Brooks, last time I saw you, we were at halftime of the national championship, trying to figure out who in the world is going to win this game, talked some big picture things, but I don't think I saw you on the field or anything afterwards. And so for me to now be seeing you at an undisclosed location, which you cannot reveal where exactly you are, but let's just say you are not on vacation right now and you have been, grinding for the last, what has it been, like 2 months?
Yeah, we during the off season, I like to go on my football pilgrimage. I just go around the country. Anybody that'll have me, just sitting on position meetings, sitting on defensive, offensive install meetings, just learn football again. I started doing this last year, Connor, because the style of content that I do is it's educational based, right? I'm in front of a board for hours on end during the year, watching football, explaining football, teaching football to fans, and I felt like last year, if I don't continue this football education myself, like I'm just going to be shooting at the wind, not knowing exactly what I'm looking at, trying to project what I'm looking at. And that's not a safe place to be for what I do. So yeah, man, any school that will have me, any college that will have me, I'll come on my own dime, spend some time with you, and learn. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'll be doing this for the next week or so, and then after that, I'll do all high school evaluations. I'll go around to about 45 different high schools. Most of it's because I'm a sicko and I just can't sit still. I feel like I have to be around football or else I'm doing nothing. So I like to do nothing. Nothing is good for me. I do like to hang around my family. That's nice during the off season, but I like to be around ball as much as I can. So yeah.
What would AJ McCarron say about this current work pilgrimage that you do to just
Oh
learn more about
God.
football?
Yeah, probably just some fathead that don't know nothing about ball. Probably just some guy in his basement talking on the internet. Something like that.
Speaking of Bama, you've
Yeah,
been a big Ty Simpson guy, and when Dan Orlovsky has been saying throughout this pre-draft process that Simpson is better than Fernando Mendoza, have you been just nodding in approval, or is there like a more nuanced take that we should have instead of what Dan said? So black and white in a way that made us all
yeah.
kind of question his intelligence.
So I felt validation from a standpoint of what I saw Ty do from an NFL operational standpoint was confirmed for me because I'm watching him during the season, right? Dan's doing this all in like the last 2 months because he spent so much time on the NFL. I'm doing this throughout the season and I'm watching him just like start one. Everybody's like cracking on him, saying he sucks or whatever. It was a bad, start against Florida State. And I go watch it. And I'm like, bro, we haven't played like organized football in what 3 years? He sat for 3 years at Alabama, almost 4. We haven't played organized football in a long time. And the last time we did, it was in high school football. And dude, our eyes and our feet and our progression and the way we were thinking the game was very obviously clean. Start one. And then you watch him against Alabama or Georgia, and he goes 9 for his first 9 on third down. I think they're 13 of 19 in that football game on third down. They operated a third down clip that Kirby Smart defenses had never allowed. Kirby Smart had been coaching defense at that point for like 20 years in college football. They had 15 solid of great defenses, and no one had ever sliced them up on third down like that. And I start watching it, and it's like it's all NFL stuff, right? Grubb brought back what they were doing from the NFL and maintained those NFL principles on the college level. And yeah, I was validated by seeing that and being like, I know he can operate at a really, really high level. I've said on our errors where You know, Ty did stuff from the neck up, from a processing and decision-making standpoint, NFL throws standpoint that I hadn't really seen. Like, we can just give you all of this stuff and you can operate at a really, really high level day one, game one, and then you only get better. We don't see a lot of that stuff in college. In fact, what we see a lot of times in college is what Fernando's doing, right? Where we're reading leverage, we're not reading defense, right? We're reading, okay, that player outside the box, is he going to commit himself to the box? Okay, he did. Let's spit it out. Okay, oh, that corner's off. We're reading his leverage, right? Or we're just gonna, we got a free access throw over here. We're gonna rip it right now. Whereas Ty's looking at it and he's going, okay, well, pre-snap they're in too high, downset hut, ball into the belly of the back to the defense. I turn back around, put my eyes back on it. Well, they work too high. Now they're one high. They've closed the coverage, right? They've changed the coverage. Okay, my progression now changes. I was working this side of the field. Now instead, I'm boom over here. Oh, here comes the dig on the backside. Progression number 3, rip right into the spot we needed to be. If I'm an NFL guy, right? If I'm Dan Orlovsky, or if I'm an NFL coach, not a GM, if I'm an NFL coach, if I'm watching what Ty's doing, I'm like, hey, that's what we do. That's what we do on this level. And then I watch what Fernando's doing, and I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't really apply to what we do. That doesn't apply to what the game does here. You know what I'm saying? So I get why Dan's doing what he's doing, but from a draft projection standpoint, you have to be able to project. So you have to be able to say, Fernando's not doing this pro style stuff. Can I project him to be able to do that on Sundays? Well, it's a gamble, but yeah, I would project him to be able to do that because I think Fernando is an extremely smart person, right? I think he's a great processor, meaning he can take in a lot of information and he can absorb it and then process it, right? Like, that's the important stuff. Now, what's scary about the projection from Ty is I have to project whether or not he can survive. I have to project whether or not he's big enough, fast enough, strong enough, physically capable of doing this. We don't get much bigger, faster, and stronger when we get out of college and go into pro ball. That progression of the athlete from a physical standpoint happens from high school to college. So that projection's scary about Ty because he didn't survive a college season, to be honest with you, Connor. So yeah, I love the Ty Simpson tape. But it's not just about tape. It's about being able to project the athlete. And the projections from Fernando, I worry about his pocket awareness. He doesn't have much of it. His pocket ability is not really there. But from a height, weight, speed standpoint, accuracy, ability to make throws, that guy is the better prospect, if you know what I mean.
I think the counterpoint would be that what Mendoza ran at Cal was different than what he ran at IU, not as much anticipation based. And like you said, you trust him to be able to figure out those things to the next level. Obviously, the pocket presence is going to have to develop. If you look at, obviously, and they're the outliers, but like the greatest asset that Pat Mahomes and Tom Brady ever had throughout their careers was just having this unbelievable rapport with reading leverage of like what Gronk would do or what Travis Kelce would do. And that was like their ultimate ace in the hole. And you feel like Mendoza with Brock Bowers seemingly is going to have something like that. And you can build off of that. And I know that I feel like I can have that. He's going to develop that with whatever his skill player surroundings are. With Ty Simpson, what do you think is going to be the thing that you could say definitively, I know he's going to do that in the NFL? And I know that everything is different depending on situation. It's a crapshoot, but like, what's the one thing that if you were betting today, I think Ty Simpson's going to show up and he's going to be able to do that at least an NFL ready level? What would you say that thing is?
Yeah, processing point guard. Like, as much as we get caught up on physical traits of a quarterback position, you know, if I get 35 dropbacks on any given football game, whether that be on Saturday or whether that be on Sunday, of those 35 dropbacks, about 20 of them, I need you to play within the system. I need you to operate and process and make the right decision and throw an accurate football and play on time. I know Ty is going to do that 100%. He's going to check those boxes. He's a perfect student in those moments. The questions I would have about him are his physical capabilities outside of structure, right? Like, even his turnovers this year at Alabama, watch him when he's rolling right. Watch how bad it gets. Like, we make bad decisions. We turn the ball over. We take bad sacks. Okay. That's all the physicals, right? Oh, I got to beat a 3-tech now. Ooh, I got to go. Well, we don't, what if we don't have that? What if we don't have that juice? You know what I mean? he's a good enough athlete, but I do worry about the physical nature of him. Dude, it is a height, weight, speed league. It really is. Like, it matters how big you are. I mean, historically, he's 6'1", under 6'1", under 215, right? So historically, that puts him into a category of, well, he's got to be Drew Brees. That's it. That's the only one who's really done it at his physical stature, right? Like, people will say, oh, well, Baker Mayfield's 6'1", 215. If Baker Mayfield and Ty Simpson look like the same physical person to you, then you and I see things differently,
Like,
right?
Russ
Like,
is not the same physical person.
exactly. Russell Wilson is not Ty Simpson. Russell Wilson was an MLB draft pick at a middle infield position. Russell Wilson was an elite athlete. And even him, guys, like, that faded off 7 or 8 years into his career because it starts taking tolls. It is a big league where I feel like they protect you more in college from a physical standpoint. Like, when you're running the ball outside of the pocket, like, you don't take monstrous shots all that much in college ball. You do that stuff like he did in the Rose Bowl against Indiana, buddy. It won't be you fumbling the ball. It'll be you crumbling. Like, we will die if we do that on a consistent basis. Honestly, guys, like, I think he cracked his ribs against Missouri. He did the same thing. He did the same thing against Missouri that he did against Indiana on third down. He goes scrambling. They let him take off because they're not worried about you as a threat. Like, you might run for a first down, but you're not going to run for 50. So I'm not going to spy you as a defense. And then you get out in the open space and you lack spatial awareness, and then you take a kill shot. Do that on Sunday and watch what happens. You won't last. And those are my biggest concerns about him. I know Fernando, big sturdy tree. That's a big sturdy tree that I know is tough as nails. I mean, if there's anything that sticks out about his film, from an NFL standpoint, is that he's willing to take hits. Like, that kid, the play that everyone talks about from Ohio State, the first play of the game where he gets lit up by Caden Curry off of a design rollout. What's so crazy about that is, pre-snap, he puts his eyes on the wide 9 because that's what they tell you in naked boots. Like, if anyone who's teaching nakeds, they tell the quarterback, if we have a 9 technique, which means if the defense is way out there, you have to peek him pre-snap, and then you have to locate him post-snap, because that'll tell you how quickly you have to get rid of the ball. If you watch Fernando pre-snap on that play, he puts his eyes on the defensive end. Post-snap, he puts them on him again, and then he puts his eyes on his target and just concedes, I'm going to die doing this. I'm going to get absolutely obliterated, but it is what it is. And he gets the ball completed, takes a play off because his helmet damn near comes off, and then comes right back in. He's 6'5", 236. That looks different when we're 6'1", 205. So those things matter. And from an NFL standpoint, I get it. I get why they do that. I get why they do it in college too. I understand why the 6'1", 300-pound elite offensive center is not getting recruited by a Power 4 school. I get it. I totally get it.
Brooks, I push back on the notion that Arch would have been the surefire number 1 overall pick in this draft had he come out, because I think, like Simpson, you see the 1 year as a starter, and there's a lot that you can like, and there's also some questions, and the sample size kind of is what it is at this stage of his career. Would you have been willing to say, yes, I would take Arch number 1 overall?
I would have taken Fernando 1, and then I would have struggled with Arch. Like, I struggle with Arch it honestly made me feel much safer about him finding out that he struggled all year with a foot injury last year. Because Arch from a physical standpoint, like athletically, and I think he sees the field the right way. I think he's settled in. I think he competes from within the pocket. My biggest fear is his mechanical inconsistencies. That dude's lower half does a different thing every play, or at least it did last year on tape. And when I find out that you had to have off-season foot surgery, and I would almost bet my monthly paycheck this month it was his right foot. I would bet it's his plant foot, his drive foot. Because if it was his left foot, it wouldn't matter all that much. His front foot, it doesn't really do all that much. Your back foot's what you drive and use your pressure off of. And he was so inconsistent in his lower half last year. But I'll tell you this much: if they spent a lot of money this offseason, but most importantly, they did so at the offensive line position. I thought it was embarrassing, the lack of protection that they had last year. to know who that guy was, to know how important his future career is, for them to not be able to keep him up off the ground was ridiculous. And I didn't even think they adjusted schematically enough to help him out. I mean, there were times where, Connor, I'm watching and he's taking 5-step drops and the average depth of route is like 12.5 yards, meaning nobody is looking at him. He can't even get rid of the ball if he needed to. And there's free rushers running at him every play. And it's like, what are we doing? And then come to find out, well, we fired our defensive coordinator at Texas last year, despite the fact that they had a top 20 defense. And everybody's like, what happened there? Well, it's very clear to me Steve Sarkisian was trying to figure out what was going on with their defense last year, and it hurt them offensively. Because I remember listening to Steve when they announced Will Muschamp, and the first thing he says is, head coach of the defense. I don't have to worry about them.
That was noteworthy.
And I'm like, whoa. Because it's not just the head coach who's an offensive minded guy. It's the play caller.
Yeah.
The offensive play caller, obviously last year felt like he had to go sit in on defensive meetings. We can't have that. We can't have that at all. That's not going to work. And so I'm very curious to see what it's going to be. I also thought it was dumb that anybody thought he was going to be in this class. That's a quarterback. That's a quarterback family. Yeah. That quarterback family knows what we know. 25 starts. 25 starts has minimum 25 starts, which, to go back to our Ty Mendoza discussion, you know who really scares the out of me? I don't know if I can cuss on here. You know who really scares me about Mendoza or about Simpson? You know who really terrifies me? Garrett Nussmeier's 2024 tape. That scares me because I thought Garrett Nussmeier had better tape in 2024, as good of tape as Ty Simpson had in 2025. They're great tapes. If you watch 2024 Nuss and watch 2025 Ty Simpson, you're like, wow, these guys are NFL quarterbacks. And they're like, what happened to that Nussmeier guy in 25? Oh, he tore his lat or had an oblique thing, had something wrong with his body. And then the whole 2025 season is chalked. Well, guess what else Garrett Nussmeier's got going on? Garrett Nussmeier's sub 6'2", sub 215. So now we get back into that. He does look. He looks thicker. He's not. Yeah. He's not all that tall. But again, we get back to that discussion of like, oh damn. Well, he had to play a 14-game season, and then had to come back and do an off season and come back, and then he messed up his oblique preseason, and now we got to play. Well, if I'm 6'5", 236, my back tightness gets alleviated a little bit better than 6'1", 205. I got longer levers. I had more juice to begin with, if that makes sense. And more horsepower. You dwindle my engine down a little bit. I still got more than the 6'1", 205 guy.
And if you're going to be one of those guys that's going to be, hey, I know to maximize my abilities, I'm probably going to have to stay in the pocket. Nobody was respecting us as a scrambler, and understandably so. That's just not where he's going to pride himself on. It does put everything kind of into question. And it's one of the reasons why I love Trinidad Chambliss so much, because I feel like he can throw from any arm angle. I feel like he can make plays within the structure of the offense and outside of it too. We both have him as QB1 in college football coming back this year. And the more that I talk to people, the more that I kind of think that I can make a better case for CJ Carr as QB2 than my original case of CJ Carr as QB6 in this upcoming season. I don't think anybody knows, though, with Sam Levitt. Like Sam Levitt, if we're talking about like quarterback rankings, which is all the rage right now, like you had him at 10. I think he's maybe the toughest guy to rank of all these guys that continue to be in these conversations because of the injury, because of the change of scenery. What's your take on his projection this year?
Yeah, I had him at 10, and I call that Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. insurance. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't like the Arizona State tape. I do not like frantic playmakers at the quarterback position. I do not like – all right, so here's how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to work on progression. 1, 2, 3, pressure coming. Let's find an exit strategy. That's how quarterback's supposed to play. 1, 2, 3, get to our hot. We can't get to our hot. Let's escape, right? Exit strategy. Sam Levitt's exit strategy is the second progression. Watch him play. It's 1, 2, 3. Like, I'm taking my drop. Jordan Tyson's not open. Whoever we called this play for, whoever number one read in progression is not open. Let's go. Let's go rabbit in a hat. Let's just go pull something out and see what happens. And about half the time, 75-yard bomb. Just an absolute like nuclear explosive play. And then the other times it's bad. You know what I mean? Like it's run around, it's panic, it's frantic, it's Mississippi State tape, honestly, where the frantic doesn't lead to an explosive, and then we're just frantic. That scares me. But here's the deal: he's going to a place where he's fitting to get all the answers. Okay, I don't know if you know this, and if you don't, it's because you weren't alert on Lane Kiffin's tweets during the Sugar Bowl while he's tweeting while Ole Miss is playing. But I was, unfortunately. And I see this tweet pop up on my timeline while I'm on the sideline taking photos of the Sugar Bowl. And I look down, and it's a graphic of an LSU Tiger and Lane Kiffin. And it says, most total yards of any offense created since helmet comms have come into football. And it's a fact. And you know why? It's because Lane Kiffin's ass sits over there at the sticks every single play, and he pulls his headset down, and he goes, and he gives them the answer. And then downside, let the ball snap, and it gets spit right out into a free access throw. And now we got 9 yards in a cloud of dust, and we just chop you up for 13 plays and walk it down the field and score. And we do so in 90 seconds because we're playing in no huddle. I just described the first 6 scoring drives against Georgia in the first matchup. Remember that first matchup where nobody could get off the field? I think the final score is like 44 for some whatever. They couldn't get off the field. Reason why, they played zone the whole first half. And Lane Kiffin's over there just dialing it up. So that's real. That's going to happen. That's why they eliminate a lot of the turnovers. Like it's why they're effective. They're a really efficient offense. It's why 9 times out of 10, most defensive coordinators from Wazoo to freaking Kirby Smart, by the fourth quarter, they're just lined up playing man-to-man coverage. And everybody's like, why are we in man? And then it's like, you look at the first half play chart, it's like, why did we give up 7 13-play scoring drives to this offense? Lane Kiffin's over there. He's giving all that. So remember that? I remember watching them on game day. Nick Saban and Kirby Smart were talking about Lane Kiffin used to whistle, and then he'd give the check with me with the quarterback. He'd give him a sign. And as an opposing coach, if you heard the whistle, you knew you were screwed. Like you had to panic because Lane got the answer. Well, guess what? Now there ain't no whistle. Now there ain't no whistle because all he's got to do is pull that damn headset down and whisper into his quarterback's ear, literally the answer. So they're going to light it up. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're going to be a good offense at LSU.
If you flipped John Mateer's season, I think he's considered easily a top 5 quarterback returning in the sport, and that's not the case. And we know that there are going to be questions, not just about the injury, but the mechanical issues. And I love seeing what he said about his own performance in spring and talking about like being critical and, the happy feet, the jump throws and stuff like that. His feet are his greatest asset and also perhaps his greatest liability, at least as it comes as a passer. How fixable do you think are those issues that John Mateer has at this stage of his career?
Oh, man. How diligent are we about fixing them? You know what I mean? Like he got away with a lot of it at Washington State. But even to that extent, he really didn't. I mean, he was like 65% completion guy at Wazoo. Like it wasn't really, really high. And there's a lot of like screen work in that offense. There's a lot of behind the line of scrimmage work. So if we're not near 70%, there's probably something to do with mechanical issues. So I don't know how diligent we are about fixing them. I was at least happy to hear that we are aware of the issues, right? That's at least important. I'm with you though. I thought the thumb injury didn't just impact him, the passer. It was that he was their whole offense the first 5 weeks, the first 6 weeks. I mean, they don't have a run game if he's not going to give them 12 design carries every game. So if there's 30 attempts on the ground, he's got to get 12 of them. Well, our thumb goes haywire, and now we're worried about contact. We got all kinds of sleeves and stitches and all kinds of stuff on our damn thumb. So probably not running in much more. I would imagine I didn't feel like they were allowed themselves to use him as a design runner until they went to Tennessee and beat Tennessee. And the second half, he's flipping the field in the midfield, extending with his legs and running. If he can be healthy that way all year, I think they'll be fine. My biggest question is about weaponry out there. It's been that question for the last 2 years for me. And like, hey, can you run the ball without your quarterback? That's kind of important,
Not having an 800-yard rusher the last 3 seasons now, something I
Yeah, they're kind
feel
of
like
like Alabama in that
it's
sense.
weird. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think Oklahoma fans know they need to get that part figured out. A couple more
Yeah.
for you here. I know you got a lot of things going on. Byron Brown's hitch. It's a better
Mm.
conversation probably for NFL people to have. Like if he was going to the NFL, like everybody would be all over it, and a lot of people were all over it last week when this is like going viral. I'm sure your tweet probably only added to that, but you know, I think the reason that people are discussing it even at all is because he's going from the American to the SEC. And I have parts of his
Yeah.
game that I've talked about that I have questions, like extending plays, throwing on the move, throwing under pressure, all those things that I think it's going to need to be addressed early on in the season. I know how I feel kind of about those things. How do you feel about where his game stands right now?
So, I mean, guys, he's gonna run for 85 yards a game in this conference, isn't he? I think. He is. They don't. All right, how do I do this? They're a wide choice offense. They don't need like some super polished passer. They don't. They don't need some guy that can like, you know, hey, we got mesh concept coming. You got to throw it into this window, and if you show any elongated motion, everybody can drive on where you're going. No, dude, they run the ball and then they throw the ball outside the numbers 50 yards down the field. Like that's what they do. So show me clips of him doing that and whether like we can successfully do that in this conference. And if you can, your offense will work. If Auburn football was reliant on Byron Brown to be some polished professional passer, they wouldn't have hired Alex Golish. You know what I mean? Like that's not what that system is. Now, when that system does get a polished passer, they mix pro systems into it, like what happened at Tennessee this year with Joey Aguilar. Joey Aguilar was really, really comfortable in pure progression offenses. So they gave him a bunch of pure progression reads. They put it into the system. Well, that's not what Byram does. Like, watch the USF. I don't like being this guy, but like, watch the USF tape. It's very clear. I mean, he's damn near scratching his butt every time he throws at USF. Like, it was bad there, and it shows up on tape there. There are routes that are undercut. Like, it happens. The Memphis tape is both flashes of brilliance and flashes of reasons why every hater and their mama's gonna say this ain't gonna work in the SEC. So, and the flashes of brilliance are him. Like in that game, guys, he takes off at 23 miles an hour on GPS metrics. This is verified times. He's running 23 miles an hour at 6'3". Say he's the biggest 6'3" you'll ever see. 6'4", looking 235 pounds. And he jumps over. Ma'am, I'm on a call right now. I appreciate your housekeeping. I'm good. Thank you. No, ma'am. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. I heard her, but Connor, I heard her knock, and I figured that maybe she ain't gonna come in. But anyways, he's such a good athlete that is what they're going to focus on. Athleticism, forcing you to dedicate numbers to the box to stop the run, and then they're going to throw it outside the numbers. That's what that whole system is. Now, my bigger concerns about Auburn, Connor, are the fact that they're the third iteration of this to come to this conference in like the last 5 years, right? Tennessee's a wide choice system. Mississippi State's a wide choice system. And now here we are with Auburn. Well, in 2022, when, Golish was at Tennessee and they were boxing everybody, I mean, they were scoring 45 points a game. Nobody really knew, like, what is there a blueprint here? How do we stop this? What do we do? Right? It's very new to the conference. Now, like, we're 5 years into this, Bubba. There are schools that are like Georgia. Georgia went through 3 of these preps last year alone. Like they're so ready for this type of stuff. So I do wonder if there's going to be like a catching. You're not going to catch somebody off guard here. Everybody's going to be kind of ready for what it is that you do. Now, it don't matter if you're ready. Can you stop it? So the wide choice system is about running the ball, not about we're going to get 35 attempts at it today. How good of a passer are you? Like that's a side question.
Last one for you, and I'll let housekeeping take over from here. What's got a better chance?
Dang.
It's always the worst possible time. When
Right?
is housekeeping ever come?
Buddy, I
and
knew
you're
I
like,
was.
oh, perfect, I'm leaving.
I knew I was cooked because when I walked in, I saw her like four rooms down. I'm like, bro, this is going to interrupt this interview. Whatever.
Oh, we're good. We're good. What's got a better chance of happening this year? Chad Morris is exactly what the doctor ordered for Clemson, or Florida beats Georgia by double digits?
Ooh. Dude, the Clemson roster is so bad.
But last year was so good.
Yeah, I know. And that's what's even
There's
more
got to be a
scary.
way. Brooks, there's got to
So,
be a way
hey,
to make the roster better.
according to Chad Morris, the whole entire building was filled with entitlement last year.
Definitely.
So they were just a bunch of entitled, spoiled kids, and that's why they played bad. To which the Clemson fan base was like, the hell they got reason to be entitled for? Ain't nobody in the building won a ring. Nobody. Nobody on the roster had won. What are y'all talking about? Where did this sense of entitlement come from? They had not won. So I don't know. I watched Tate Reynolds in high school. I did not think he was going to be like some super polished passer, and they're talking about him like he's going to be God's gift to football at the quarterback position pretty soon. So they must have hit on that. They must have had, and that's all that matters. By the way, that's what that place has been about. That place has been about defensive line and quarterback play. And if they don't have the combination of both, they ain't winning. So that's what it was when Deshaun was there. That's what it was when Trevor was there. Like, go look at those drafts. It's the quarterback going in the top 5, and then like 5 defensive players, and they're all box players right after that. So no, I would have to say probably more likely that this is going to get me clipped. Probably more likely that Florida were to win by 10 points than for Clemson to magically turn it around.
The answer is never Chad Morris. That's the correct answer.
Dude, I was blown away. I was blown away by that comment. Also, like, how do you, as the newly, I know you had been there, but you weren't there last year. How do you walk into a place as the new OC and say, that last bunch, they thought they were gold. They sucked. How do you say that? What is that's like PR number 1. Don't say nothing about the place you was at. Don't say nothing about the people that were here. Period. But
also, probably don't say anything about the glory days of Clemson when you left right before they had the glory days of Clemson. Just a thought going out there. Brooks, you're the best, man. We'll do it again soon.
No doubt.
All right. Well, just as we always do, let's close with some lad of the week. Mind if I get us started here?
Go ahead.
All right. This is going to be controversial, I'm sure. Nobody's had any opinions about this and the way that it played out or anything, but Braylon Mullins, I mean, Greenfield Central's finest. That is, ironically enough, where my in-laws live. Greenfield, Indiana. Crazy. Just a little bit east of downtown Indianapolis.
I think you just make up a new Midwestern town every day. Like, I'm going to find out that you have a list of made-up names that you just be like, yeah, and that's Blueberg. My cousin went there.
Brownsburg. Yeah, we know. If you know, you know, Indianapolis. That shot that he hit to send UConn to the Final Four, one of the most stunning NCAA tournament moments ever. I mean, ever. And admittedly, we at the O'Gara household were not fully locked into that one until like 5 minutes left. Had a lot of stuff going on here. Sunday scaries were creeping in a little bit. Like, I said, Lauren, we need to turn on some basketball right now. And when Mullins hit that shot, even Claire said, whoa, which you don't get a whole lot of live reactions from a 2.5-year-old. You just don't. And look, I am not one of those people that's totally out on Dan Hurley. I do think he's much, but it's pretty incredible that when they recruited Braylon Mullins, they were able to say to him, hey, come to UConn, and then you'll get to play at home in the Final Four as a freshman. And sure enough, that is literally what he's doing after hitting one of the all-time great shots. I mean, I think it's going to be up there with the Chris Jenkins, Christian Laettner, like all of those just unbelievable moments of this tournament. And Will, I was thinking about this. I think UConn can get blown out in the Final Four, and you can make a real case that it's still one of the best 4-year runs in big revenue sports post-integration. Like, think about this. Title in 23, repeat in 24 with nothing but double-digit wins in the NCAA tournament. And then in 25, you lose in the round of 32 in a thriller to eventual national champ Florida. And then 26 is TBD, but still you have this historic comeback in the Elite Eight to knock off the top seed in the tournament to get to the Final Four. Like, I kind of think that if you look at any post John Wooden, UCLA 4-year run, it's up there. It's probably slightly behind the 89 to 92 run that Duke had with Leitner. But I mean, because they had the three consecutive title game appearances, 4 Final Fours, 2 national championship victories in that stretch. So like UConn would need to win in order to definitely be ahead of that. But I don't know. I think it's up there kind of with like what Bama did 2009 to 2012 in football, USC from 02 to 05 with 48-4, 2 titles, 3 title game appearances, and then Nebraska 94 to 97. Speaking of Nebraska, 49-2 is just ridiculous with 3 titles or 2.5 if you're a Michigan fan. So yeah, I just think it's remarkable. And even if people are kind of just done with Dan Hurley, Braylon Mullins, man, your life is set. Never paying for a drink again in Stores, Connecticut.
It's great that Claire had, within the span of a couple of days, her first Iowa notebook entry and her first Fern Lundquist impression. That's awesome.
No. Wow. She had that entry long ago, Will.
There you go.
Long ago.
There you go.
Very well versed.
She's part of the program. She's moving on. Yeah. There's an elite piece of slander that I learned from my buddies that are Kentucky fans that was directed at UConn about 10 years ago. One coach program. And that to me is such a good piece of slander. And what Hurley has been able to do is completely change that narrative. This is all just Calhoun. Once Calhoun leaves, you guys aren't going to belong here.
Kevin Ollie won a national championship.
That's a little bit of a Coker Miami situation to them. They're like, he's just the final last. Okay. That was like kind of a hot team, like not a great coaching job. They found a way to discredit that. Don't you worry. And they're like, well, we're a program. Anybody can coach here. You have to be this specific guy over there. And both of those things are currently not true. Kentucky is currently struggling and UConn is not and looks like a wagon. And I'm of the opinion of like, as long as you're not kind of cheating or like hurting players, basically your coaching style is your coaching style. Like, I think that if what Hurley is doing is working, it's really hard to criticize him. And so like Signetti's not for everybody. Then he wins. Everybody wants to be a Signetti guy. So if that works for them, is Hurley, do I want to get a beer with Hurley? Probably not. Actually, that'd be kind of funny. Actually, I feel like that would be very funny. Not like Mick Cronin, I would not have fun with. I guarantee that. With Hurley, I feel like he could be a little bit more fun. But yeah, I really don't hate a guy who's winning on that level because he's intense.
Dan Hurley probably is actually a really good person to have a beer with because it just takes the edge off.
Yeah,
and he's a lot more relaxed. Like I'm not talking getting hammered with Dan Hurley, then probably a little bit of that comes out. And I don't know like what his tolerance is. I can't speak to that, but like 2 to 3 drinks on the golf course or something like that. Get a couple of those hurricanes going, or the fusions. Those are all the rage right now on the golf course. Get a couple of those. I bet Dan Hurley's a great time. Just nice and relaxed. And actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, he probably gets really upset on the golf course. Bad example.
Golf is not what you want to do with him. Yeah, that's because those competitive guys. Like, don't ever want to be near Michael Jordan at a golf course. I will lose my house. I'll cry. Don't want to be near him. That's one of those.
But maybe you'll win Michael Jordan's house.
I don't think I'll win Michael Jordan's house at golf against Michael Jordan.
I'm just saying.
With you. I feel better in a free throw contest with Michael Jordan than I do on the golf course with him staring at me. Oh, but that being said, related to that, right? Did you see that thing from the JMU reporter who talked about Signetti at ordering drinks at the booster event?
I did not see this.
Oh, dude, they said that he ordered beers by ABV. He was like, "Yeah, let me get that 14."
He is a 1 beer guy.
He was so dialed in. He didn't even. It was like, "Give me the 14, give me a 12, whatever it was," and they were like, "Huh?" This is a booster event. He was just like, "I'm here for the brass tacks. I'm moving on."
Wait a minute. Okay, so explain that. Explain that, because if you're ordering strictly by ABV, what are you like ordering for himself or ordering like for?
Yeah, like for efficiency. He was like, "This one right here, give me that 14," and they were like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That's what I'm looking at." So he's just he has a plan. He has a game plan.
As the man who got Kurt Signetti free beer for life, I can tell you that man very much values specifically what he's putting down to be able to, put a smile on his face after a game.
Oh yeah. Okay, on to my lad of the week. This one felt very easy for me. Salvador Perez.
I love Salvi.
Did you see his fight against the umpires this weekend?
Oh, no. Oh, I thought you were... Okay, so he wasn't involved in the CB Buckner double tap in the Reds game, was he? Because I watched that. That was hilarious.
His was even crazier, brother. He went 3 for 3.
3 for 3 in reviews.
Yes.
When he was at the plate, he did?
as a catcher defensively.
Oh, okay.
He was like teaching the umpire the strike zone. Salvi Perez is one of my favorite baseball players. Maybe I just love that he sounds like a cartoon dinosaur. I don't know if you've ever heard him talk. He has like this, I'm Salvi Perez. And like, I just always like loved watching him play for the Royals, having fantasy a couple of years. And when he kind of got injured, he had like some old man washed injuries, like kind of for a couple of years there. And then he came back, won player of the year, and he's been awesome. I remember seeing him on Team Venezuela and being like, wow, he still kind of got it. Like I hadn't really kept up with him. I went to the Braves opening day game, and I processed this live. This dude went 3 for 3 within like an inch every time. And was just looking at the guy like, and you could, if you watch the video, if you ever seen it, the kind of confidence on the second one, they have a dual panel of him in the strike zone. He's blowing a bubble. He doesn't even see it. He's like, I know I'm right. Let's get back to this game, son. It was electric. He little boyed that up so bad.
So I'm not saying that this is what he would like to do post baseball, because Lord knows I would not be holding my breath on Salvador Perez to stop playing baseball. But he should be an ump. You should be recruited to be an ump. If you know the strike zone that well, which, as we know, catchers always, we know the strike zone the best. I can call myself a catcher as someone who did that in high school 20 years ago. There is just an unbelievable baseball knowledge that he possesses. And I remember when I was in Central Nebraska, and I told you this before, we used to watch every Kansas City Royals game because my boss, Buck Mahoney, was a diehard Kansas City Royals fan. And so every single game on whatever, Fox Sports, Missouri, or whatever it was, and Salvi would just be always like the best player on the field, no matter what. And that was still early on in his career, like 13, 14, I want to say. So yeah, I've always respected his game. The fact that we're going to see so many of these moments, I kind of didn't process that, how much I would like that, of like watching CV Buckner just get embarrassed like that. I obviously hate this. It's the worst thing ever for him, but like baseball kind of needed that. And you could say that it's not as pure as it once was, but I don't know, maybe cream rises to the top and people like Salvador Perez, their baseball knowledge will be celebrated that much more.
I'm so pro ABS, dude. After watching like just kind of a weekend of games, first off, here's the take, dude. I think MLB is passing the NBA. I think that the things that they have done lately with the pitch clock and the ABS system have made the game shorter and more watchable and feel less like random, you know? And so I really enjoy the ability of pro hitters to like show how much they know the strike zone, because fundamentally that's their job. It's really not like, yeah, your swing is part of it, but understanding what is a hittable pitch, what is in and outside of the zone, and to be that level of athlete and see it as a closer, better perspective. And I don't know what the percentages are. I heard it was like pretty high. I don't want to quote it and be wrong, but it's actually so crazy how elite their eyes are. And it's given me even more kind of respect for them. And that being said, I will then go watch college baseball and be like 10 times angrier at the umps, or I'm just like, look, this is the one job that I won't be sad about AI taking. Like, this is like, you guys are so arrogant. You keep trying to say you're better than all this stuff and haven't trying to show people up. And it's like, get out of here, man. That's what we need to do, is put Salvi in charge of like, he operates the ABS system.
Yes.
Like, he's like, oh no, that was not a strike.
It just all you need to do is just give him the catcher cam, and he just has a direct feed of it. And then Salvi can tell you every single time, this is strike, this is ball. I don't know why I had to take out the words like Kevin Malone did there, but you get what I'm saying. He would be great at that.
Instead of robo-ups, they just have Salvi Perez. He's retired. He's on his couch, and he just gives the final. Yeah. He's like, you don't even need that tech here, brother.
I am the robot. You get that, right? All right, well, that's a pod. Like I said earlier, we are so excited to be part of the next round, Double Down Media. This is going to be such a great chapter for us, and we're going to be able to do some bigger and better things with this partnership. And so for those who are wondering, like, hey, like, what's changed? Like, where do you follow us? Still in the same place, like pretty much everywhere. We're going to be on the next round YouTube as well. We're still going to be having shorts on the OG Kickoff on YouTube, which you should totally subscribe to. We have great interview content that goes up there as well. And then if you are not subscribed to the OG Kickoff if you're not subscribed to the actual podcast, now's your chance to do so. If you've been subscribed, hey, you don't have to do anything. We're not asking you to change feeds or anything like that. Please email us, theogkickoff@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, the OG Kickoff. And yeah, Will, this is great. This is really, really exciting, and I cannot wait. Please leave us a 5-star review and follow us on Twitter @CJoguerra, @GoSoHard. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.